Okay, any order columns using negative margins. When float-based layouts were beginning to gain steam, many designers wondered, is there a way to do three-column floats that is independent from the source order? Turns out there is a okay. So I have, because um, we push the main away from the left side, right, and then we news is uh, yeah, margin is 0. With the 200 pixels, and then if we want to shift, right, we just go length is margin 960, so it is shifted to the left and they are arranged around it. Okay, so it was okay. This one requires a bit more explanation, so we'll look at how it's done one step at a time. In the markup, we see that main comes first, presumably because it is the most important content, and comes last. The whole page is wrapped in a wrapper so that it can be set to a specific width, 960 pixels, in the layout. However, the order of the column from left to right is length, 200 pixel main, and news. This layout has 20 pixels of spaces between columns. The first step is to getting the first step to getting there is moving the main content to the middle position by applying a left margin that pushes it over enough to make room for the left column, 200 pixels, plus the okay. So margin left is, while we're at it, we'll add a 20 pixel right margin on the main as well to make room on its right side. Okay, show how it looks after applying to main. Okay, so we have this, and this is shifted here. Okay. Next, this is the cool part. Pull the content that you want to go in the left, length in this case, to the left using negative margin value. The trick is figuring out how far left to the left is it is needed, how far out. Okay, the trick is figuring out how far to the left it needs to be moved. If you look at figure 1614, you can see a ghostly version of links that show where it wants to be if the wrapper were wide enough. I find it useful to look at the layout in that way because it makes it clear that we need to pull links to the left by width of all the element ahead of its sources. Okay. In this example, the element box width for main is 520 pixels plus 220 pixel. Okay. For the left margin, 20 pixels, and for the right margin, okay, left and right 20 with a total of 560. Okay. The element width ah main, let me take a look at main. Where are you? Main is okay, then this. Okay, right. Okay, apply it. The total width of the news is 200 pixels for margins applied. That means that links need to be pulled a total of 960 pixels to the left to land in the left column. When negative margin is applied, links slides into place and we have the final layout shown here. The negative margins technique can be used to position any number of columns in any order. In exercise 16.2, you will get a chance to rearrange the columns so that news is on the left. Okay. Now that you know the strategy, you should be able to write the styles that position news content in the left column and links to on the right. This exercise is based on the same HTML source order as the previous example. Note, however, that column width the position. Hold up. Let's take a look at how it. Okay, so news is here and links are here. Okay, so now that you know the strategy, you should be able to write the styles that position news content in the left column. This exercise is based on previous example. Note, however, that column width values have changed to make things interesting. Okay, if you'd like to play around with the actual files in the text editor, write it in the style rules below. The final style provided appendix N. If you would like to play around with the actual files in the text editor, Mount Olympus exercise 2. Okay, so I would have to bring in exercise 2. Okay, let's bring in exercise 2. 16. This is exercise 2. Let's open it. Alright, she. Hold up. Yeah, okay. Alright. So we have this and we want to add our. Okay. So write your margin declarations below. What does it look like in default? It is here. Okay, so let's add a little left and right margin, 20 pixels, right? Okay. Wrapper, this is main, right? Margin top is 0, margin left is 20 pixels, margin right is 20 pixels. Let's see. Okay. Now, oh no. How much width? We need to have, we will move it by the width. How much width is link? Link is 220 pixels, so go 220 pixels. Now, I want to move, this is 400 plus 220, 400 plus 620 plus 640, 640, and news is 640 plus 300 is 940. So I'll add a margin of 0, 0 and trouble 0 and minus 940 pixels. Let's see, it is there. Okay, but there is a little overlapping. Margin to the right. Huh. How about I go a little in pixel margin and everything. Okay, so it will be moved here, right? Yeah, that is wrong. 20 pixel margins. So I should move it a little more. Let's move it to 30 pixels. Yeah, okay. And margin left is 230. Floating it to the left with its 400 pixels. Right, okay. News. How much margin should news have? Hold on, okay. Let's see what it looks like right now. Okay. So this is it. News. News can be moved a little to the left. Top left, I'll give 20 pixels on the left. Let's observe that. Okay, so it is stacked. So I'll give it 10 pixel on the left. Okay, there's a little space. I can move it a little more to the, I go 10 and I move it by 30. Alright, and then I can push this guy. So this is 400 plus 230, 400 plus 240, 640, 640 plus 640 plus 300, 640 plus 300, 900, 900 plus 940 plus 10, 950. So should be minus 950 pixels. Or I should center this and they should stick to the right, yeah. I should remove the left margin on to 0. This should be equal I go 930 and then I move it a little more. Margin right is 20 pixels. Margin on the right, margin on the right, if I go 10 pixels, then this is like this. Okay, what right here? Okay, so news. Oh, hold up. What do we want? We want news content in the left column and links on the right. Okay. So I want news in the left. Okay. So that's okay. Let me see. This is the default, right? This is the default. I want news to come in the left. Okay. So first of all, news in the left. So I want to make space for news with padding, right? Okay, so news is 300 pixels. So I need give me 320 pixels on the left margin. No. How does that look? Okay. So it has disappeared. Right. Give me left margin on the 320 pixels. Then let's bring left margin 320 pixels. So I have this is at the middle. Then I bring news to the left. Okay. Then bring negative. What is this? So I have to bring it by 400 plus 320, 620. I don't have right margin. Okay, 620, 620. So 620. Okay, let me see what happens with 620. Okay, so it is right here, but I need to take into account the links too. So when taking into account, okay, so I need a little padding on the right of the main. Let's give it 20 pixels. Now this is, it was here, so I need to move it from the content. So 400 plus 320 is 620, 640, 640 plus 640 plus 220 is 860 minus 860 pixels. Okay, so it is, oh, see, it is checked right here. This is right, but my calculations are wrong. So I have to move. Okay, so it is basically right. It was here. So we go padding plus main plus the space here. What's the space here? Okay. So width of main is 400 plus the padding that it made for me 320 plus overall width. So 320 is 740. Yes, 740. There we go. Okay. So this here is 400 plus 320 plus 20. This doesn't break anything. No. Okay. So let's check it out. 6i16.2 in the appendix, right? Appendix B. Okay, so 320 and 20, right? Minus 740. Correct, correct. Then we move on to position layout. I think we got floated columns covered. The other way to create columns in a layout is to use absolute positioning. We created a two hybrid column layout with a positioned fixed width column. In this section, we'll use positioning to arrange three columns in both fluid and fixed width pages. Note that in both examples I have omitted a footer element. I've done this for a couple of reasons. First, when you position all of the elements in a layout, as we will in these examples, they no longer participate in the layout, which means there is nothing to hold a footer at the bottom of the page. It will rise up to the top. There are solutions to this problem using JavaScript, but they are beyond the scope of this chapter. Okay. But say we position only two side columns and let the main center column stay in the flow to hold the footer down. This certainly is a possibility, but if either of the side columns grow longer than the center column, they will overlap the footer content. Between leaping footers and potential overlaps, it's just kind of messy, which is why I've chosen to omit the footer here and why floats are more popular than popular layout technique. So we have three columns position fluid layout. This layout uses percentage values to create three flexible columns. The resulting layout is here. Okay. See strategy. Wrap the wrap the three content wrap Wrap the three content divs main news links in a div content to serve as a containing block for these three position columns. Then give the column elements width and positions in the containing content element. Okay, so there we go. Then we have styles, content, position, relative, margin 0, main width is 50%, position absolute, top 0, okay, left 25%, top 0, left 2.5%. Oh, this is length width, and right, okay, from right edge. Okay, so this is 25 on the right, and it is 50% in width. Okay, so 25 from the left is 20%, so 2.5 of margin and 20% again. Okay, so I think you'll find the styles for this layout to be fairly straightforward. I created the content containing block to position the columns because we want the columns to always start below header. Okay, if we positioned them relative to browser window, the initial containing block position relative, right? Make a containing block. If we position them relative to the browser window, the initial containing block, they may be in the wrong spot if the height of the header should change, such as the result of h1 text size changing. Make the content div a containing block by applying position relative. The main div is given width of 50% and absolute positioning is used to place it at the top of the content div. And 25% from the left edge. This will accommodate the 20% width left column plus 2.5% margin to the left and right of it. The news div is positioned at the top of the content div and 2.5% from the left edge. Top. Okay. Then the links div is positioned at the top of the content div and 2.5% from the right. No need to calculate the position from left edge, just put it on the right. Note that we could have positioned news and links column flush against their respective edges and used padding to make little space on the side. There are multiple ways to approach layout goals. The only trick to getting this right is make sure the width margin measurement do not exceed 100%. Remember to factor in padding and borders as well. Okay. So we have three columns positioned fixed. If you prefer to have pixel level control over your position layout, that's pretty easy to do, as we'll see in this example. It differs from the previous fluid example in that the whole page is contained It differs from the previous fluid example in that the whole page is contained in a wrapper, so it can be fixed and centered. And pixel values are used for measurements. To save space, I'll just show you resulting styles here. The positioning strategy is the same. Okay. Okay. So we wrap everything in the wrapper and then we set it to 9. Is this? Now from left to 20 pixels. Left 0. 20 pixels of gap, left 100. 0. Okay. Then we have top to bottom column backgrounds. Adding color to columns is an effective way to further emphasize the division of information and bring a little color to the page. But if we take a look at the dashed border in all the screenshot example we've seen so far, we'll see that column element often stops well before the bottom of the page. This means we need to get fancy if we want to apply backgrounds from top to bottom. Unfortunately, okay. So unfortunately, there is no supported way of setting the height of an element to 100% of the page height. And although there are JavaScript workarounds and the emerging Firefox box spec that produce full height column elements, they are beyond the scope of this chapter, but don't fret. There is a reliable solution known affectionately as the Fox column trick that will work with any of the fixed width templates in this chapter. In this technique, you create a graphic with a column color in their proper positions and apply it as a vertically tiling background image to the page or containing element, such as wrapper in the example. The for column method was first. Oh, nice. Here's how. Okay, here's how it works. The column shading is the result of a horizontal image with bands of colors that match the width of the columns. When the image is set to tile in the background, the result is vertical stripes. Okay. The column shading. When the image is set to tile vertically in the background, the result is vertical stripes over which a multi-column layout may be positioned. This method works only when the width of the column is set to a specific pixel measurement. And we'll get to fluid column backgrounds in a moment. You may recognize the layout in figure 1618 as the two column fixed centered width we made in earlier in figure 16:9. This time it has two column PNG graphic tiling vertically in the wrapper element. 16:9. Where is 16:9? Oh, there we go. What is this? So we float it with this fixed right margin. Okay, main and then extras. Okay, extras are put it in a single. Okay. List of link and news. Okay. Okay, you may recognize layout. Okay, this time it has two column graphical tiling. I'll repeat why. Okay, if a layout lacks a footer element to hold the container element, after the columns are floated, apply overflow hidden to make it stretch around the float. Apply overflow hidden to the wrapper to make it stretch around the floats. If a layout lacks a footer element to hold the container element, after the columns are floated, apply the overflow hidden to the wrapper. Okay. For columns for fluid layout. Now that you understand the basic technique, you may be wondering how to make it work for columns of varying width. The secret is really white background graphic and the background position property. Okay, we may not know the exact width of the columns in a fluid layout, but we do know the point at which the columns are divided. Okay. Let's use the two column fluid example in figure 16.7 as an example. The column division occurs 67.5% from the left edge, 5 margin, which is for how over in Photoshop or image editor of choice. Create a horizontal image that is wider than any monitor is likely to go, 3000 pixels or 2. Okay. So 3000 pixels ought to do it because the graphic needs to be only a few pixels high and is likely to be made up of few flat colors. The file size should stay pretty small. When you create the column colors, make sure they match the proportion of your columns. In an example, the left column backgrounds should fill 67.5% of the width of the graphic. Okay, left column. Apply the wide image as a background property. Okay, to the element and use background position to align the point with the color change in the graphic, 67.5%, with the point where the column divides on the page, also 67.5. In that way the column break repeat by background position. Okay, so 67.5 background position. I don't really remember background position. I would need to. That way the column break in the image will always be centered in the space between the columns. And there you have it for columns that expand and contract with the column width. Nice. Okay. 3 4 columns. Well, that works for 2 columns, but what about 3? It is possible thanks to the liquid bleach technique introduced by Doug Bauman. It's called liquid bleach because that's the name Doug gave his bleach block template after he converted it to a fluid layout. Fundamentally, the process is the same as the one we just saw. Position a really wide background graphic proportionally in a container div. But for 3 columns, we position 2 background images. The one provides the color band for the left column and the remaining right portion is transparent. Oh, the second image provides the color for the right column with its left portion being transparent. The background color of the image shows through the background color of the image shows through transparent areas and provides the color for the middle column. Ooh. The markup requires 2 containers. I've named them wrapper and inner. Okay. The left column graphic goes in wrapper. The left column graphic goes in wrapper positioned at the point between left and center columns. So the left column graphic goes in wrapper positioned the left column graphic goes in wrapper positioned at the point between the left and center columns. Okay. And the right column graphic goes in inner. Okay, the left column goes in wrapper. Okay, so this is wrapper is containing everything, and then inner is containing main, news and links. Okay, fine. main, news, and links. The browser, okay. The left column graphic goes in wrapper. Positioned at the point between the left and center columns, 26.25 for example. The right column graphic goes in inner, positioned between the center and right columns, 73 points. Okay. When the browser window resizes, the background images stay put at their proper point. Okay, and this is background position is 73.25. The background images stay put at their proper point between the columns, and the background color fills the space in between. Note, the same effect could be achieved by placing multiple background images in the wrapper, which does away with the need for extra mark. Simply position one image to tile vertically on the left side and another to tile down the right side. The images should be wide enough to extend from the percentage point of the column division well beyond the edges of the browser window. Okay. We have test yourselves. Okay, let's do a quick revision. Okay, so fixed layout, fluid layout, elastic layout, resize proportionally. Size of text, browser window size. So it combines both. Fixed and scalable areas, fixed layouts. Okay. The layout is predictable and offers better control over line length. It is easier to design and produce. It behaves the way the majority of web pages behave as of this writing, but that may change. Okay. Disadvantages: content on the right will be hidden if the browser window is smaller than the page, and there may be an awkward amount of leftover space on large screens. Line length may grow awkwardly short at very large text size, takes control away from the user. We have fluid page design, liquid layouts. Okay, fluid or liquid layouts. The page area in the column within the page gets wider or narrower to fill the available space in the browser window. In other words, they follow the default behavior of the normal flow. There is no attempt to control the width of the content or line breaks. The text is permitted to reflow as required. The natural medium. Okay, advantages: fluid layouts keep with the spirit and nature of the medium. They avoid potentially awkward empty space between the text fills the window, because text fills. On desktop browsers, user can control the width of the window and content, no horizontal scroll bars. On large monitor, line lengths can get very long and uncomfortable to read. They are less predictable. Elements elements may be too spread out or too cramped at extreme browser dimensions. It may be more difficult to achieve white space. There is no math involved in calculating measurements. Fluid layouts, so fluid layout with width and auto. So width set width. Okay, another potential drawback of fluid layout is overly long line lengths, but you can prevent the layout from becoming ridiculously wide by specifying a maximum width. Okay, maximum height. So we have with 70, margin right 5%, float left, and background is yellow. Okay. Elastic layout, a third layout approach, marries resizable text with predictable line length. Elastic layout expand or contract the size of text. If the user makes a text larger, the box that contains it expands proportionally. Likewise, if the user likes her text very small, the containing box shrinks to fit. The result is that the line length in terms of words of character per line stays the same regardless of the text size. This is an advantage over liquid layouts where the line length can get too long, and fixed layouts where very large text may result in awkwardly few characters per line. 48 EMs. and 48 EMs here. Line length and line breaks stay the same. Okay. Full page zoom feature offered by most current browsers has stolen some of the Elastic Design's thunder. Now all web pages appear to scale up proportionally, but Elastic Layout. Okay. However, Elastic Layouts have the same issues as fixed width layout at large sizes. Although you can control with that a max width property and are generally not useful as fluid layout in the mobile context. Another drawback is that although the page grid scales with the text, embedded media such as images and movies do not. Their solution advantages provides a consistent layout experience while allowing flexibility in text size, tighter control over line length than liquid and fixed layout. Okay, so elastic. Images and videos don't lend themselves to automatic rescaling along with text and the rest of the layout, but there are methods to achieve this. The width of the layout might exceed the width of the browser window at large text sizes. Not as useful. Not as useful for addressing device and browser size variety. More complicated to create than fixed width layout. Okay. How to create elastic layouts? The key to elastic layout is in the EM unit measurement that is based on the size of the text. For example, for an element with 16 pixel text, an EM is 16 pixels. Hybrid layouts that use a combination of pixel, percentage, and EM measurements are sometimes called hybrid layouts. Illustration 6 demonstrates a hybrid layout. Now the secondary column on the left is set to a fixed pixel width, and the main content area is set to auto and fills the remaining space in the. Okay. Main column resizes, this is fixed. Okay. A word of warning: when you mix length, it becomes much more complicated to calculate page and element widths, but it's possible if there is a good reason to do so. As layout trends come and go, we're seeing a shift from fixed desktop appropriate sites to fluid. To fluid designs that are better suited to work well across all devices. You may find that a fluid layout works best for the smaller screen sizes and a responsive site, but a fixed layout gives you the control you want when the page is viewed on a very large monitor. Or perhaps your site is a complex internet application that requires a fixed design and is likely. Okay, so the page layout techniques. So we have 2 and 3 column layouts, source independent layout, and multi-column layout using positioning. Okay, so I have done. Let us test yourself. If you successfully created multi-column layouts in this exercise, then you've gotten the main point of this chapter. Here are a few questions to make sure that you got the fundamental. Match each layout type with the factor it determines. Okay. So fixed layout fluid is this, elastic is remaining is this. Oh, so fixed C, fluid A, elastic B. 595. It was 395, maybe? No. 595. Okay. Match each layout type with the unit of measurements used to create. Fixed layout are pixels, fluid layouts are percentage or EM, elastic layouts are EMs. Match each layout type with its primary potential advantage. Okay. Predictable line length is elastic layout, no awkward leftover space, and okay. Then we have match each layout type with its potential disadvantage. Uncomfortably fluid layouts. Inches don't scale up to match with the page. Right side of the page gets cut off on narrow browser windows. There we go. Okay, then we move on to transitions, transform, then animation. Until then,